Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael. I'm going to be your host for around about the next half hour. Quite a short session, this one, because it's quite a relatively simple option to use, and it's really just encouraging you to have a go of it and seeing what you can do with it. So we're looking at the batch changes option this morning in Sage 50 accounts. Now, just before we get started, we'll quickly run through a little bit of housekeeping. So as usual, you don't need a microphone for these sessions. If you've got one, it will be muted automatically, so we can't hear you, so nothing to worry about there. But it does mean, however, that if you've got any questions, that you will need to type them into the questions panel. To access that, you just need to click the little speech bubble icon that's on your taskbar down the right-hand side of your screen. When you click that, you'll then have access to that box in the bottom right-hand corner. That's where you can start typing any comments or questions you might have. Remember to click send. We've probably all had those occasions where you've typed in a message and you think, why hasn't that person responded? And it's the message is still sat there waiting to be sent. So remember to click send. We'll try and pick up the questions as best we can. It's the royal we today, so just myself running this session with you all. So do bear with me here and there, just in case I get inundated with questions. If I can't pick them up as we go, I'll just try and pick them up at the end of the session. If anyone wants a copy of today's slides, they are available to download during the session. Do take that opportunity during the session if you want them. We don't send them out afterwards, and they're not available to download afterwards either, so do take that opportunity. They're not detailed though. If you want detailed information about anything that we do cover on the webinars, you'll find that information in our help centre. Now, as usual, you will receive a follow-up email, and you get that around about an hour after we finish. That will contain the recording of this morning's session. So if you need a bit of a recap, just watch out for that one, or maybe you want to share it with your colleagues. It will also include links where you can register for future webinars. Or webinar timetable currently runs up to the end of January. We'll be adding in February very soon as well, which seems like a long time away, but actually it's not that far away. And then also it will include another link to our main recordings list as well. There's a few gone missing from that list, so do bear with us if you're looking for a specific one, but there's still about 100 or so that are there and available to you. So it's a nice, easy way to use the webinar service if you want to learn more about your software. Let's have a quick look at what we're going to be covering this morning then. So a quick introduction to the batch change option, give you an idea of availability, what you might do with it, and also alternatives as well, because there are alternatives to quite a number of options in Sage Accounts. There's a number of ways of doing and achieving the same result. So we'll mention some of those as well. Some of them you might be thinking of yourself as we run through the session and think, well, you may have been on the recent global changes webinar. So again, a little bit of a crossover there. Once we've sort of ingrained that process in your head a little bit, just so you know how easy it is to do it, and as you'll see, how easy it is to get what you're after. Just at the end, I'll explain more about the additional support that's available to you. Obviously, if there are any outstanding questions, I'll then pick up those as well. So don't be scared, pop them in there. No daft question, as I say, only the one that you didn't ask. So pop in your questions. I'll try my best to pick them up. So let's start with a little bit of an introduction to batch changes. Now, batch changes, it has been around quite some time now, and it makes changes, or it enables you to make changes to multiple records simultaneously. So you're not having to sit there keying in the same change. So your customers, for instance, if at the end of the year you think, right, we're going to review things like credit limits, rather than sit there keying them in against each customer or wanting to make a similar change, then you don't have to do that. It's a great time, or can be a great time saver, depending what you want to do. It's available in 4 key areas: customers and suppliers, which tend to be the ones where you're more likely to use it. Products and services, and also if you are on the professional level of the software, it's available in fixed assets as well. Now, the option for using batch changes, it's not available if you're on the essentials level of the software. Now, if you're not sure what level of the software you are on, just look at your title bar when you next go into Sage 50. On your title bar, I'll quickly show you just what I mean by that. So I'll just quickly share my screen. And your title bar, this bar at the very top, it's either going to say Sage 50 Accounts Essentials, you're on the essentials level. It might just say Sage 50 Accounts, meaning you're on the standard level, or in my case, it says Sage 50 Accounts Professional. So I'll just tell you on this title bar at the top, and then that will be followed by your company name. Let's head back to the slides for a moment. So this option that we're covering today isn't available in Essentials, but you never know if you're in Essentials, it might just be that another sort of tick on the list of things that you would benefit from if you do upgrade to a higher level. Now, there are alternatives to what we're covering today. Obviously, you've always got the option to do a manual change. You know, if you do want to go through things like credit limits one at a time, you want to specifically review each account, then that may be the better option for you. Global changes, Matt covered that earlier in the week. I think you might be covering that again next week. I think we might have a repeat of that session. And then also importing data as well. Some people do like to, the likes of your customer records, maybe your suppliers, your product records, you might like to have that in an Excel spreadsheet. And then update some information and then import that. So things like change to your customer records, etc. Quick question from Emmy there. Is there a way to complete batch changes in the transaction screen? So you mentioned there, if there are a list of payments completed for the wrong account or other things you want to amend, you can't do it for transactions. Transactions needs to be done on basically manually, and it needs to be done one at a time as well. The only time you can change things like a date for a number of transactions is where you've got what you would term a group of transactions. So, you know, where you've got maybe a batch of payments that are grouped together, then changing the date would change that for all the individual, what we term splits. But transactions wise, generally it's one at a time. Whereas records, this is where the batch changes option comes in. So as I say, it's good for me to mention those alternatives because, again, if you're on Essentials, for instance, where you don't have batch changes, there are alternatives available for you. Now, I have included a link to the batch changes article that's in our help center. But again, I think once you've seen this today, you'll think, well, actually, it's a really simple feature, but again, really effective. So what we'll do is we'll just get stuck into some demonstrations. I'll show you a little bit about where you can find it, etc. So let me switch back to my main screen. Now I'm using version 31 today. Now, if you're thinking, oh, not heard of that one yet, version 31, it is now available. It's been available for about 2-3 weeks now. It's available to download from our help center. It may not have been promoted to you yet because we do try to stagger the rollout just so that, you know, we don't have every single customer contacting us about, I've got an issue with installing, or I needed to do this, or where's this gone, or how do I use this new feature? We don't have that massive influx of calls all in one go. So it gives us a bit of a fighting chance. So it is rolled out gradually. But if you do want that, it is available to download. Just again, get into our help center, search for version 31, and it'll be there. Right. Now, I'm also using the professional level of the software again today as well. But if we pop into customers, now with customers, because there are so many options on your toolbar along the top, what you might find is you might have batch changes listed as a separate option. However, you might find, depending on your resolution, and I've got my resolution set really low on my laptop today just to make things that little bit bigger. But with a low resolution where you don't have as much sort of space on your screen, everything's that bit bigger, so you can't fit as much on there. And when that's the case, and it can't display the batch changes separately, what you'll find is on some of your icons, you'll have grouped icons or grouped shortcuts. So on the bottom, so you'll see this new edit, and if I click on the drop down, you'll find that batch changes is there. Now it is grayed out at the moment, and the reason it's grayed out is because I haven't made my selection. So I haven't selected the records that I want to make changes to yet, but that's where you'll find it. If you do have enough space on your toolbar at the top, then it should be listed separate. Now, speaking of the toolbar at the top, and this is a good little tip, this one, if there's any options that you don't use, so you can see in this area, I've got some options which we use for Go Cardless integration, where you might get paid by direct debit, for instance. If you don't use certain options, what you can do is just right click anywhere on that toolbar at the top, and it will give you a list of the options that are displayed. Now you can see this request card payment here at the top. It's grayed out at the moment. Now, if I see it on the list, I can think, well, right, we'll get rid of that one. I'll just right click again and I'll think, right, I'll get rid of settlements as well. And also I'll get rid of direct debit manager. So if there's any options you don't use, that's how you can get rid of them. Again, if I just get rid of some of the others, see if I can make it enough space to ungroup the options along the top. Let's just get rid of receipt as well for the, there you go. So when I've got enough space at the top, you'll see that batch changes is listed separately. Now that's showing a hiding of options at the top. If you want to just reset that, I can right click, switch any options back on that I want, or if I scroll down to the bottom of the list, there is that use defaults option that just resets that listing for me. Anyway, what we'll do is I'm going to select these, let's just say these 5, rather than do them all. If I wanted to select them all, I can just use the swap option at the top. But we're going to select the first 5. Now I'm going to come back to selection methods in a moment as well. It's something I want to cover for you because it links very closely to what we're doing. So make your selection. You can see in this instance, all these 5 accounts, I haven't got any credit limit set for them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set them a credit limit of, let's say, £5,000. So with them selected, I'm going to go into batch changes. You'll see it's now active because I've got some records selected. So we click batch changes, and what it does, it brings up essentially a skeleton customer record for me. Now, the fields that I can make a change to are the ones that are in bold. The ones I can't change, such as account reference, company reg number, the balance, VAT number, EORI number, and others, they're grayed out. So things like I've got a number of tabs still as well. So if I do want to change things like the credit limit, we just pop into credit control. You can see the credit limit is available to me. It's in bold. So what I'll do is I'm going to set that to 5,000. And then I just click save. It's literally as simple as that. I get that prompt. You've chosen to make changes to multiple records. Do you want to save those changes? Just click yes. That's it done. You can see they've now all got that credit limit. Now, when you're using the batch changes option, it's all about giving a specific value. That's what it will use. You can't say, right, in batch changes, I want to increase credit limits by 10%. You can't do that. It's all about keying in a specific field. So nice, easy one, that one. What else could you use it for? Well, if you've ever looked at what we term custom fields or the analysis fields, and what do I mean by that? If I go into a customer record, pop into defaults, it's these fields at the top. Do you use them for anything specific? So you can see I've renamed some of mine to customer type. So I categorize my customer records into types. I've got some trade, I think I've got some as cash and some as retail or public. I've got this one which I've termed responsible rep. So I can record whoever looks after the specific account. I can record their name in this. And we've also categorized by regions as well. Now, yes, region-wise, we might just use part of the address for that. But again, it's whatever you want to use these analysis fields for. So if you decide, right, actually I might use things like customer type. So say you, trying to think of an example, you might have donors, for instance. If you run a charity, for instance, you might flag them as a donor. You might find it as a corporate donor. So you might have different categorizations of your customers. It might be business to business, retail. So again, whatever you want to use these fields for, if you're on an up-to-date version as well, you've got 6 of these fields. So rather than then go into each record in turn and say, right, George has left our company now, and actually we want to allocate certain records to, let's say, Michael. I'll put my name in for the sake of argument. Rather than me go into each one in turn, again, if I just select the relevant ones I'm after, so we'll just do that random selection. And again, if I go into batch changes, find the relevant tab where that field is. So there's the one I want to change. And if I put my name in, save the changes, yes to the prompt, and that's it done. So if I just go into this one here, not credit control, into defaults, you can see it's got that there. I can still go in and manually amend it, but it means that I can update multiple records very, very quickly. If you've come across inactive records as well, now inactive records is a fab little feature as well, where you might get to the likes of your year end and you think, right, these certain customers, I just don't deal with them anymore. They were a one-off. So this one here, it's got a 0 balance. And I might think, well, actually, I know for certain this company's gone bust. I'm not in a position to be able to delete it yet, but I might want to flag it. I might want to hide it. So I want to flag it as being inactive. But you might have a number of those. Now, if you were just doing it one at a time, you would just go into the record, tick the little checkbox, and then save it. So flagging it as ticking the box to say, right, this one's inactive now. But what it does mean is I can, let's say I want to highlight everyone. So I just click swap at the top and it highlights, it reverses the selection. So I'll highlight everyone, go to batch changes again. And I think, actually, I want to flag as many as I can as being inactive. I click save. Just prompts me with a normal prompt. You've chosen to make changes to multiple records. Do you want to continue? So yes. I'll get a progress bar. Now I do get a message, which I fully expected there for relating to inactive accounts, and it's telling me not all of them could be flagged as being inactive. So there's certain criteria for flagging records as being inactive. So one of them, of course, is it's got a balance. Now, any that don't have a balance at the moment, so I just clear that to remove the selection, any that sort of meet the criteria to allow me to flag them as being inactive are they've now got a Y in that inactive column, and it means that now I can hide them from my list just by removing this little tick box, the include inactive tick. If I want them back, just click back on them. So number of uses for that one. Again, you've got the same options in suppliers. If I just highlight a couple, 2 or 3, and again, this one, there's enough space to this time display that batch changes option. So if I go into batch changes, and then again, I can see the fields that I might want to change the information about. Again, you've got the analysis fields at the top. So you've got credit control. You've also got the bank tab as well, that potentially you can make changes in there as well. But again, you would do that in exactly the same way. Your products and your services. Again, probably a good time of year. You might have certain products that you think, right, actually that's the end of life for that product. So what we might do is we might set up a category for end of life products. So we might, for instance, go into the configuration option. And we're looking for our products. And if I just find a blank one, let's say number 11, I'll call that end of life. And we'll just OK that. So that's now set up, that category. I'll just OK that. And I might go into products and say, right, okay, well, this one, this one, this one, and this one, I want to flag them all as being end of life, just so I can report on them a bit easier if needed. So what I could do, again, make your selection into batch changes. I've got the category option available to me, and then if I just find the relevant category, so there's the one I've just set up, I'll save that, yes to the standard prompt, and that's it done. Now, does it let me display the category? I can't remember. Can't see it for looking if it does. Not on that list. I could report on that though. So if I then wanted to, get a list of all of the products that are flagged as like end of life, I could pop into filters and I'll do where, and we'll look for stock category, should be on the list. Scroll way down. Oh, there it is. So stock category number, and I'm going to say is equal to, and I'll look for that end of life one that I've just set up. There it is. So I'm looking for all of the products to be listed that I've got flagged in the category end of life. So I'll click apply, click close, and they're the ones that are flagged. So it's using batch changes can sometimes just be part of a bigger process that you're going through, a way of maybe helping to tidy up your account and identify and flag the records that you want to gain easy access to, or maybe you want to just have the ability to easily flag them so you can hide them. If I want back to my full list, I just switch the filter off. There we go. Now, I just want to quickly mention selecting records, because there are two options when it comes to selecting records. Now, the selection, what we term the selection style, you'll find by going into Tools, Options, and on the Environment tab, so the third tab there at the top, so Tools, Options, Environment tab, and then you've got this option here, Windows Selection Style or Sage Selection Style. You can toggle between the two if you want to. Just quickly explain what they mean and how they work. So I'm set for the Sage Selection Style at the moment, and the way that that one works is when I go into Customers, if I click onto something, it highlights it. If I click on it again, it deselects it. But what it means is it's the Sage Selection Style, I always describe it as an on-off click option. So if I click on that one, it's highlighted. If I click on that one, it highlights. And it just means I can randomly click and I can highlight whichever ones I'm after. I don't need to do anything else. If I want to deselect one, then just click on it again to switch the highlight off. So it's like an on-off selection option. If we switch across to the Windows Selection Style and I click OK, go back to Customers. If I highlight an account, so click it to highlight it. If I come down to this County Golf Supplies and then I click that one, you'll see the highlight follows me round. So it doesn't leave the original selected. If you want to leave the original selected, so let's say this one, and we want to select County Golf Supplies, then all I do is I hold down the Control key and I click the one I'm after. Alternatively, I just click ABS Garages and let's say I want to highlight this one and everything down to and including County Golf Supplies. Now on the Windows Selection Style, you hold down your Shift key, you highlight the first one, highlight the last one in that range, and it'll highlight everything in between as well. But don't get caught out by making your selection and then think, actually, This selection here, I also want to add this Morley Solicitors account, and you click on it. Because I haven't held down any keys, the highlight moves with me. If you want to select multiple accounts, then Control and also the Shift key when you're clicking are the ones to go for. So that option, just a reminder, Tools, Options, and then on the Environment tab, it was one of these two. And you, as I say, you can toggle between them, have a go of them. I think if you've used Sage a long time, you're a bit more biased towards the Sage selection style. So if you're in the likes of, say, your bank reconciliation, for instance, you're thinking, well, why can't I select more than one transaction at a time in that screen? That's why, it's your selection style. Anyway, that sort of brings us to the end of the batch changes option and the demos that we wanted to run through with you. As I mentioned, short and sharp this morning. Loads of uses for that. Again, just forming part of that bigger process. If you do have any questions for me though, I think Emmy, yours is the only question I've had so far, so with relating to the transactions. So any questions, pop them in there. We'll just pop back to the slides for a moment. If you weren't quite with us at the beginning of the session, if you've got any questions, you just need to click your little speech bubble icon on your taskbar down the right, give it a click, and then you can start typing in that box in the bottom right-hand corner. As a reminder, if you want detailed information on anything that we cover in our webinars, so anything beyond the sort of demos that we run through, then do check out our Help Center. Great source of information for you, including allowing you to download version 31 if you are wanting to get on the latest version. But the support guides in there, you'll have access to webinars, the live timetable, the recordings. You'll find other videos in there as well if you're a bit more of a visual learner. You want to see things demoed to you rather than just read about them. So videos are useful. And if you can't find what you're after, there will be options to guide you through the process of getting in touch and the best way to go about that for your type of query. For webinars, we've got loads planned in for next week, and then we take about a 2-week break for Christmas and into New Year, and then we'll be back the first full week of January. If you're looking for webinars, the links are included on your follow-up email. However, nice and easy to find, just head along to sage.co.uk/webinars. We run them for a range of products, so Sage 50 Accounts, Sage 50 Payroll, Business Cloud Accounting and Business Cloud Payroll. And also we now run them for Sage HR as well. So if you want to attend any webinars or watch recordings for those, then do check that out. Just sage.co.uk/webinars. Bookmark your page, you can get back to it any time. Right, one last call for questions, but while I give you a chance to pop those in, many thanks for coming along. I hope you've enjoyed it, found it useful, giving you a little bit more insight into the workings of Sage 50. Hopefully that will be a good little time saver for you once you're aware it's there. So if you could take a minute to complete the survey as you leave, that's all we really ask you to do. The webinars are free to attend other than giving up a little bit of your time. So if you can pop a comment, a score on the little survey that pops up as you leave, that would be greatly appreciated. Any thoughts, ideas, topics you'd like to see covered next year, pop them on there as well. Your follow-up email will be with you in around about an hour's time. So that will include a recording of this morning's session, the link so you can register for our upcoming webinars. So as I mentioned, there's loads on next week, and also from the first full week of January, so I think that's from about the 6th, our normal webinar timetable will resume as well. Timetable currently runs up to the end of January, February to be available soon. So watch the space for that one. Right, still no outstanding questions, so we'll end the webinar just at that point. Once again, many thanks for coming along. Take care, stay safe, and hopefully we'll see you very soon on another webinar. Many thanks.